Welcome back to Unmuted Nation, and it's time to jump into another segment of the Cabinet. Today, joining me from the Boss FM digital news team is two ladies, Giselle Medina and Taylor-Janell. Welcome to Unmuted Nation.
Thanks for having me.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Thanks for joining me. And so just a little bit about the Cabinet for those tuning in for the first time, whether you're listening or watching. It's a segment that we add to Unmuted Nation just to have some conversations that not only start here, but leave and continue within your friends and family and your groups that you're having right now. Hopefully you're still social distancing and having these conversations on FaceTime. Nevertheless, ladies, thanks so much for joining me. There's been so much happening in the country right now, and kind of in line with what we've been talking about this week. I really wanted to talk about a lot, just in the midst of a pandemic, a global pandemic that a lot of people are ignoring. What do you think? And I guess I'm switching gears from where I was going initially, but what do you think the United States could have done differently to prevent what we are seeing now with the widespread reinfections and we're not even out of our first wave, but with everything that's happened with COVID-19, what do you think that we could have done differently? And is there anything you think? Do you think that the responsibility lies solely on the federal government, or should some responsibility fall on local governments as well? Taylor, we'll start with you.
Okay. I feel like I don't even know where to start. I feel like it was handled horribly. It's crazy because right before everything blew up with COVID-19, I was in a class and we read a book about like the plague and how it was mishandled, and then it happened to well, not the plague, but COVID-19 happened to us, and how it was, and how it was mishandled. And honestly, in the book, it says it starts with disbelief and denial. And it just seems like we were in that state for so long before the government even started to
acknowledge
anything.
What was happening. I think whenever that happens and it's fresh on your mind because it's something that you're either reading or watching or studying, then it like hits you even that much harder because it's like, I just read what happened here and how this happened and how people ignored. And it's like you're living in a total lack of reality. Right. Giselle, what do you think?
I actually think the same. I think it was handled pretty poorly. I know from my college, they took a while to kind of close our school, and that like turned a whole bunch of whack, and we had so much more unnecessary or necessary periods or closed. Period where we didn't have school, like we had mini vacations so they can get it situated. So aside from like the school aspect, I feel like the people themselves is not only on the job of the government, they can enforce the rules, but it's on us to actually follow them and to follow the social distancing guidelines. And I know that's kind of hard in New York, where I'm from. Where I'm from in New York, because we're so social and we always want to be out, and it's always like trying to be getting together and being socially interactive with all our friends and everything. And I think it's just us ourselves, we need to follow the guidelines as well.
I agree with you. It's weird. I have to call myself a New Yorker now because I've been here for a while, and I don't really think that a lot of people don't understand the lifestyle here is totally different because it's a constant go. It's like you're just always going and things don't really slow down. And you kind of get into these routines that you don't believe that things can slow down because I never thought I would be this way, but we become very impatient just because delays cause a ripple effect. So for things just to shut down totally, and like my first time back on public transit was last week since March. Which again, kind of mind blowing because I'm like on it constantly, just at all times. So I think that it kind of hit. How did it affect your plans for 2020?
Oh my gosh.
That one hit you hard.
Oh my gosh. It really threw everything out of whack for me.
I agree.
I had trips actually planned, and you know how hard it is to actually get your friends and your girlfriends to really be like, okay, like, let's go, I have the money for it, like, we can all put it down, like, right now. And we all had everything paid for the first time in friend history.
That has to be frustrating. I'm somebody, I also travel a lot, and my Instagram probably tells the story the best. I'm usually between work, and work is kind of what has fueled a lot of my travel the last couple of years, but I just continue those travels on the weekend, and I was always gone. Like, I think like last year I had like 50 trips. It was just really, really crazy. And so for all of that to come to a screeching halt, like, and I'm not even thinking about a plane. And my life was on play. So I understand that it just, how it can slow things down. Giselle, how did it affect your 2020?
Well, just like Taylor said, I have usually for the month of July, I go away for the whole entire month to the Dominican Republic, or we plan small trips throughout the whole month of July. And since July 1st, we've literally just been home the whole entire time. We haven't gone out. Actually, I haven't. You said you went to the public transportation last week. I haven't been there since March.
Yeah, yeah. I think March 13th was my last day on it, and it's weird because I think back, like, we knew it was serious. Me, I take things more seriously just because I've been working in news for a long time, and a lot of times, like, I see things that are happening all over the place, and I know that I know that even my friends and my family were probably just sick of me warning them about things. So when this came about, even the warnings, they were like, yeah, okay. I'm like, this isn't going to be good. Like, we're going to be shut down. But subconsciously, I think we all think that the government is not, has our best interest at heart. Even for people that we don't support or people that we don't vote for, I think that we have a natural subconscious that kind of speaks to us and says they would never just let people die. They're never just going to let this, like, not ignore it. Like, they would never ignore it. And I think that that is really, it's like been a real eye opener for people that were in denial, like you said, Taylor-Janell, like people that were like, there's just no way, or this has to be a lie. And then for people that have been in hotspots, which, you know, now hotspots are developing all over the country, but New York City was such a hotspot for so long. And of course, I live across the street from a hospital. So, like, it was really like watching a thriller / horror film, because, like, the ambulances that were lined up and just things that people, like, when I saw deniers, I was just like, you can come look out my window and, like, these bodies are real. Or the families, and I don't think people realize, like, we're so desensitized to numbers in this country that we see a number and it doesn't register that this person probably had a family. And go further from a family, think about the things that you have: a car, a child, a home, all of the things that come with people. And there's over 150,000 people from this country that are dead now. And I think it's really starting to hit people. Switching gears a little bit, do you think that's going to have an impact on where people, even people that weren't paying any attention, if and when they may vote this year?
I do think that the mishandling of COVID-19 is going to go in a lot of voters' heads, especially mine. I do think that the government needs to do a lot to rebuild the people's trust.
Think? And I asked that question just because I think a lot of people sometimes were on the fence. But out of 150,000 people, at this point, there's like no one that you can really ask. And that's people that have died, but there's no one that you can ask that you can chat with that doesn't know someone that caught COVID-19 and not was just not caught it and were asymptomatic, but caught it and had symptoms, and they've been kind of down and out, and everybody knows someone like that. And people, the response from one side has been, oh, people die every day, but these are people that didn't have to die. And so I think that people kind of will probably, I'm hoping people will take this experience with them to the polls, and they will vote in mind, because I think I can't help but think about it. Had someone else been in leadership and had someone else been in in charge here, what this would have looked like. And the only other person running against this person, I just don't believe that if Hillary Clinton was the president, we would have gone months without testing and months without I just really believe that she would have been like, the United States is closed. And
exactly.
And that's it. Like, we're not going to debate. We're not going to make many issues. We don't even have to talk about all of this. We know that what this does, and it's just closed.
I feel like how do I put this into words? There is a businessman in the office, and I really feel like, and I really use heavy quotes when I say businessman. And I feel like most businesses, they try to get away with something until they can't. And I feel like closing the borders so early, and I'm trying to just think in Donald's mind.
That's literally one of the best ways I've ever heard that phrased. But you're absolutely right. Businesses will get away with whatever they can for as long as they can, which is the reason we have so many businesses that aren't paying taxes in this country right now, because there are loopholes. And one of the businesses that I patron the most, that I don't believe I could live without, I'm very disappointed in, because they don't pay taxes, but based on our tax code, they don't have to. So like Amazon, I'm disappointed. You don't pay anything at all, but I don't feel like I can live without it. And that makes me feel really conflicted. But I think the way that you worded that is so true, that business people really try to get away with things for as long as they can. And I think that strategy probably was applied here. When you talk to your friends and family about how they feel, are they talking different? Are they thinking about any of what they see going forward?
Like in general?
Yeah, well, I mean, are they planning to, because I'll use some of the, I'll use the example of what's happened when George Floyd happened. A lot of eyes were open to an issue that people have been talking about for decades. But even in the midst of that, there was another shooting when Rayshard Brooks was murdered in Atlanta. My brother called me, and I've been doing this for a long time, so he knows what I do, and I have been going in one ear and not the other. But he called me and said for the first time he saw himself. And in that specific situation, he's like, I have a nephew that's 3, and he's like, for the first time I saw myself, what could happen? And I started thinking about my child. I started thinking about my family, and I started thinking about, and he's like, I see people out in the streets. I feel like I should be there right now. And he's like, and I don't know if I should take my 3-year-old. And he's like, all of these things at once. And he's like, what? You've been telling me, but he's like, now I need to know where to look, what I'm voting for, who I'm voting for. He's all of a sudden, and I think that's happened to a lot of people. I guess my question was, have you seen that in your circle at all? People kind of like light bulbs coming on and being like, you know what, we got to do something. We got to make some changes.
I don't think for me personally, I know my friend group, we've had those uncomfortable conversations, and we are more open with each other in regards to these topics. And we know that there needs to be a change, but I think that goes to be said with the younger generation itself, because we understand, and we have grown up in a school system as well, that it's normal to have lockdown drills and all of that. So we understand all of the issues and how grave they are.
I think that's a really, really good point that I don't think a lot of people are considering, that there is also a generation that grew up with a lot of this. And many of them have had the opportunity to vote before, but many of them have not. And so based on their own experiences that they've had growing up, they've been thinking about what they were going to vote for and who they were going to vote out since they were going through these drills, in 6th grade. Like, this has got to end one day. And so now I don't think that's something that a lot of people are considering, that there is, as long as we've had certain people in office and certain people participating in the electoral process, there's always a new group that comes in that applies their lived experience to the decision that they make at the polls. Really interesting. My last question is, there has been an onslaught of, and it's a conversation that I don't see being brought to the forefront enough in the media, and it's the incredible amount of trans people being murdered and gunned down. And I think that it's something that we are seeing way too much of, and we're just not speaking on it enough. What do you think the reason behind people ignoring this issue is? And would you liken it to the fact that people have ignored the lack of equality that people of color have had in this country for so long, to what we're seeing with trans lives? Tough question, I know. It's because it's hard to think, but I think we can only really speculate what people are thinking, or why they're ignoring it.
So I just watched this documentary called Disclosure on Netflix. I don't know. Everyone should watch it. It's about trans people in media and how they've had to claw their way through. I do feel like, I don't want to misquote it, but something about the exposure of the audience, so I guess everyone, to trans people being, I'm trying to get these words correct, being brutalized basically on media, in movies and TV shows. So it kind of desensitizes everyone.
It desensitizes the response. It's exactly all about to watch, and I feel like I need to prioritize it because it's been on my list to watch, and I've heard it very good a couple times, so I'm definitely going to add it to my list. But desensitization is a real thing, and it happens too often to people. Go ahead.
It happens so much. Like when they were in the documentary, when they were showing how much like, I'm just gonna say brutality for lack of better words in my head right now, was happening like on screen to transgender people, and how they portrayed transgender people. It does something to our minds that desensitizes, but it was so much that we don't like. I didn't even realize how much brutality or how much of the little things that media was doing to basically have these group of people, yeah, exactly, have them look a certain way, like they were less, like they weren't as human as we are, as so they deserve things like that, which they don't in any sense. It was very eye-opening, and I feel like it has a lot to do, the media has a lot to do with how not that we don't care, but how no one is really talking,
Yeah. Wow. Any thoughts there, Giselle?
No, I think she covered all of it.
Yeah, I think she hit my points as well. She hit my points. I think a conversation that we need to keep having, and one that I will continue to bring to the forefront. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me for the Cabinet today, and hopefully you'll come back. And that's going to do it for Unmuted Nation today. Thanks to Taylor-Janell and Giselle for coming through the cabinet. Of course, you can catch this segment in the Unmuted Nation podcast. Go to your favorite podcast player and search for Unmuted Nation. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you subscribe and tell a friend. Of course, we are here and we're live at BossFM Talk Monday through Friday. We're live at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific. I want to see you there and make sure you become a part of the nation. Until then, remember, today is greater. I will see you tomorrow.